Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour, your source for all hard rock, heavy metal, new metal, alternative, punk, horror punk, hardcore, rock, and all local bands with your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather.
Hey, this is Skippy from Pirates Press and Pirates Press Records. You're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
The views and opinions of the guest do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of BODS Mayhem Radio Network, its staff, affiliates, or sponsors. Parental discretion is advised. Welcome to BODS Mayhem Radio Network.
Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I'm your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather. And as always, I'm bringing you guys and gals awesome interviews. Today, it's an honor and a very huge privilege to have Mr. Eric Mueller. He's a.k.a. Skippy, everybody knows him by, but he's the founder of Pirates Press and Pirates Press Records. Yes, that's two entities, folks, which is in Emeryville, California, a.k.a. Rotten City. Also, Rock The Ship is Pirates Press 15th anniversary weekend, which is October 17th through the 20th of this year, of course, at the Bay Area. We're going to be talking to him about that because that's a huge festival to celebrate the 15th anniversary for Pirates Press and Pirates Press Records and all that good stuff with Eric and what he's contributed to the music scene and industry, as I should say. And do not sleep on this company, folks, because what he has...
It's a scene. It's a scene. Don't call it an industry.
Okay. But, you know, don't sleep on Eric and what he has done for the scene, because he is tremendously helping out a lot of bands and independent bands. So we're going to be talking about this. So, Skippy, how's it going, man?
Great, man. Great. Thank you for having me.
No problem whatsoever. I'm very shocked on how all this got started, because Pirates Press was formed in 2004 from your bedroom on a laptop and all this stuff that you're doing, and now it's in its 15th year and one of the world's leading manufacturer for vinyl records, man. When you look back on this, starting from then till now, what was really your expectations, and did you ever see this actually being what it is today?
The growth of Pirates has just been organic, and it kind of is the story of any successful independent business, in that if you produce a quality product that people appreciate and there's a market for it and people are able to sell that product and themselves grow their businesses, they not only do more business with you, but they bring other people to the table too. So, you know, the manufacturing side of the company is the bread and butter. That's where we're making the money that we're able to use to fund a label and to support all the independent bands that we work with closer. But in general, for the manufacturing side of it, we're making records for everybody, you know, everybody from Johnny's band down the street to big major label, you know, hundreds of thousands of unit pressings for huge rock star bands. And in some way, it's all connected, because the vinyl industry, the vinyl market was virtually dead for a long time, but there were components that were always still there, and punk and metal and some independent scenes, as you would say, that kept it alive. And then those people really putting focus on the packaging and on creating a reason for people to still buy records was what the rest of everybody looked at as like something successful. When people were, for some reason, still buying records when they didn't need to, there was something to pay attention to there. So the whole kind of market across all genres of music really paid attention to what was going on and started to focus on the products and the quality. And that's where we stepped in. And, you know, we're all vinyl collectors and vinyl geeks, and we really care about the quality of the records that we're making. And we believe that what we're making is something we can shout about from the rooftops. And when you can do that and believe it, then what you're saying and what comes out of your mouth is received as genuine. And that's really why people are so excited to continue to work with us, is that we're like real deal punks and metalheads and artists and musicians helping other people create a vehicle for their art, you know, and we've been successful, luckily, doing that and keeping people happy. And, you know, anybody can make a record when everything goes right, but when things go wrong, that's when you really get to stand up and show your worth and like back people and be their advocate and make sure that everybody has a really good impression of what just happened when they get their records in their hands. And they're as excited to talk about our company as we are. And that's the biggest advertisement that we could ever have. And we try and stay away from paying for advertising, and always have since the start, because that word of mouth, that ability for the company to snowball kind of on its own, was the most genuine way to do it. And so here we are later, 15 years later, making like 4 million records a year and 500,000 flexies a year, and millions of dollars of merchandise and everything else that we manufacture for record labels and bands and local companies. And it's just really exciting to be a part of so much and have our hands in so many different pies, so to speak, in terms of helping people get their vision executed,
I like what you said there, Skippy, when you said word of mouth. I love that statement, because to me, it's more genuine when somebody says, hey, you got to check out this record company or this band or this mechanic down the street. You know what I'm saying? Besides seeing it on Facebook and all the likes, that don't mean shit to me. I want to hear other people saying, yeah, this dude's good. This record company's good. That's what I like to hear.
I mean, that's what you talk about, something tangible, right? Like somebody's opinion is, even though it's not tangible, it's tangible to you because you hold value in it. There's an embedded sense of importance there. Like, it's the same thing if you see somebody wearing a band T-shirt. Like, that advertisement, so to speak, for that band, depending on who's wearing it, is a much better advertisement than any like print ad you could do or anything like that. And we love to give away like T-shirts to other bands to wear on stage and to wear out and things like that. And, we started making flexies in 2010 here in the Bay, and we like developed the machines from scratch to do it. And now we're like fully gung-ho making flexies. We actually moved the operation to Europe to increase our efficiency, but like we're making hundreds and hundreds of thousands of those a year. And from our label's perspective, we love giving them away because like everybody loves a free record. Flexies don't take up a lot of room. You can store like 1,000 of them where you'd normally only be able to store like 100 records or something. And so people love them, and they do a great job like creating that grassroots word of mouth kind of advertising. Because if a band hands you a free flexi at a gig, you're much more likely to check that out than like them just saying, hey, listen to my band, or worse, not saying anything, and you just have to go home and remember the name of the band that you saw last night, that kind of thing. So it's kind of like a business card in a way, but it's got like a third dimension in a sense because it's got the music on it. So we try and like create ways for people to create those grassroots word of mouth like experiences, because they are stronger than your average social media post or a like or video or whatever you want to call it. Like, at the end of the day, somebody you care about telling you should check something out is way more important and substantive than a post somebody makes online.
I like having people on here who has fought their way to do what they love. For like example, you guys, 15 years. I've been doing BODS Mayhem Hour for 8 years. So it's just the love of music and what you love, man. So kudos to you guys on this.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I like this part too. Now, you took a huge jump on this because when you did Pirates Press, it started just before the upswing of vinyl coming back, sort of say. And that's when streaming was really big and stuff. So when you went out on that, was you kind of a little bit leery possibly, or no, just gung-ho and went for it?
For us, it was all about knowing our market, and we were already in touch with so many labels that were making records through like just normal contacts and putting on shows and knowing people in like the punk scene and the metal scene and stuff like that, that it was really natural to understand that there was at least enough of a market to sustain some level of business. And like I said, the trends that our customers were going with and had been going with since like vinyl died, but like making nice packages that somebody's willing to break out their wallet for, like that's the trend that really stuck. And we started making records in that same fancy vein for people of all genres in like the early mid 2000s. And people were really like gung-ho about it. It was something novel. And now it's, a little bit more run of the mill. You see a lot more records are obviously produced now.
Sure.
But the records that like still get written about the most and are still getting the best press covers are the ones that people took the most care in like curating. You don't just see like a plain reissue of some classic record getting written up all over the place. It's the fancy box set that includes additional material and limited this and limited that, and this is signed. And, that kind of thing is important to get people to pay money for something that they can stream for free. And since we started the company, that's always kind of been within focus, because digital has always been there since the existence of pirates. So for us, that focus on how do you get people to actually pay for the physical product and support the bands is always in our periphery, and has always been. So we try and lead the way, setting trends and creating ways for people to convince people to break out their wallet, and it's very commercialized when you talk about it that way. But when you're talking about it on a real level, you're talking about how do you get somebody to drop $15 on a band's record who needs that money for cash to get to the next town. And that's huge. It matters a lot less to Guns N' Roses and Metallica. But when you're talking about Joe's band down the street, that $15 matters. And so getting them the records that are going to sell well for a good price is gold. And then protecting them through that experience is even more important, because there are a lot of manufacturers out there for records and for everything else who are much more commercial and less intended on helping people than we are. And we hear stories all the time about people who maybe had expectations for one thing, got something else, and were really disappointed and were left to hold the bag, so to speak. And we do everything we can to prevent that kind of experience from happening. And, there's people making records with lots of experience, and there's people making records with no experience. And we're kind of like the people out there who can bridge that and who can work with either of them in a very successful way. And so that's a big reason why, we've been able to sustainably grow over the last 15 years.
I do like records. I do like vinyl. I'm not a huge avid collector, say like you guys and other people out there, but I think that CDs, vinyls, to me, grabbed my attention more because of the artwork and things like that. I mean, especially you, man, and everybody else out there, and myself. I bought albums just for the cover art and had no clue who the band was.
Yeah, well, you're not going to pass a CD back and forth with your friends and go, "This is really cool." You know what I mean? It's not cool. There's not much that can be cool about a CD. It's a means to an end that has now kind of been taken over by digital and streaming. But There's still some people who need them. They're still made. But vinyl is different. Vinyl is like a band T-shirt. It's like a way for somebody to make a statement supporting a band. And sometimes it's purely out of self-interest in that you love a record and you don't care that the money's going to the band. And that's great. But, the more important thing is when people are collecting records, knowing that every time they buy one, the money is helping a band treat themselves like professionals and try and make a career out of it, because the vinyl industry still provides that for artists. The digital industry, unless you're really getting millions of streams, you're not making enough money to support a career as a musician. The major label artists have all kinds of other ways to supplement that income. They're not really making their money from Spotify. You know what I mean? And independent musicians, compared to the days where they were able to sell 5,000 or 10,000 CDs at $10 a pop, the amount of money they're getting for 10,000 streams, for example, is peanuts, if a peanut.
and think about this, folks.
Vinyl's a way that still works.
And think about this, folks, too. I didn't mean to cut you off there, Skippy, but folks, when you go see a band, especially like a independent band, their merch, that's their money. That's their money to go to another show, to eat, gas, anything that they need, car maintenance, whatever, for the next show. This, what Skippy's talking about, when you pay them straight out of your pocket to them, that's where it's going to. It's not going, say, $20 and it's going to be divided in 4 or 5 places. The band.
No, and the best thing about the internet, though, is that somebody from some place where that band is unfortunately not able to travel can still support them with their $15.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And that's huge, because there's people buying records all over the place and T-shirts and everything else, and it's really giving the bands a way to support themselves in a bigger way than I think people realize.
What was the draw of vinyl for you versus cassette tape, CDs, and streaming to still want a vinyl record in your hand, man?
Well, for me, I think it's the same story that a lot of 80s kids have. You grow up with vinyl in your house. Like my kid records that I listened to as a child, the music I listened to was vinyl. And when I got older, the first experiences with other music was my parents' records or my cousins' records, things like that. So for me, it was just part of life. It's a bit different for a younger generation who like maybe have to seek it out a bit more because their parents grew up on CDs. Like that's a little different, but that nostalgia carries over. And even if it's your grandparents' vinyl that you ended up inheriting, that sense of nostalgia is important. And the fact that you can now buy your music, so to speak, on vinyl as well, opens that up for somebody to be a collector. And like in America, we like breed collectors, you know, the baseball card industry, the car industry, you name it, like Americans collected in droves.
Yep.
So it's natural. And then like a lot of the rest of the world, I would say doesn't collect with the same fervor that we do, but there are scenes out there, especially related to rock and roll, which is traditionally an American thing, that like emulate what the Americans do. So the vinyl market overseas has grown massively. For a lot of people, it was really difficult for a long time to get records. And now with the internet, it's opened up the borders, so to speak. And so people can buy whatever record they want to anytime they want to online. And it's really opened up a way for people to show their dedication to a band. And whether it's buying new records that actually support them or buying old records on eBay that don't necessarily support them, like it all supports vinyl and it all benefits bands and artists and independent and major labels for people to be buying records.
I don't mean to take away from the interview, but I think this is very interesting because you're passionate about vinyl, man, and collecting it. But what's the most expensive vinyl out there right now, man? Well, what's that the holy grail of a vinyl out there right now, man? That's very, very expensive.
I'm not the right person to ask because I'm not like the Uber collector. There are some folks in our office who are Uber collectors who could answer you in a heartbeat. But for me, I collect records I want to listen to. Yeah. I've got so many records crossing my table in the average day that like the stuff that I take home, the stuff that I put on my shelf next to my turntable in my living room is stuff that I'm going to play. And like every once in a while, I'll go through and I'll purge some stuff and bring some stuff home and play it for a little while and bring it. And sometimes stuff lasts and sometimes stuff doesn't. But like for me, like the value of the records is more personal. It's the stuff that improves my life by having a soundtrack going on or sharing it with other people if it's packaging related and sometimes and stuff like that. So for me, there's a very big difference to the value of certain records versus like the value to an open market. That's not what we do. We make new records.
I thought this is very interesting too about Pirates Press is that you guys are distributing with Chet's Republic. They're making the vinyls for you guys. They didn't give up when everything went to hell, you know, with the music industry. They kept doing everything for themselves.
And that's why we stand behind them till the final days of vinyl. Ultimately, the money that they have poured into vinyl and the future of vinyl is massive. And what they've done, they did it before vinyl really hit its resurgence, hit its stride. And it was because we wanted to stay ahead of the curve and make sure that we're the best. And we're the first plant to make brand new vinyl presses in the 30 years. We've now essentially upgraded our entire factory. So we're running somewhere in the realm of 38 double-headed presses that are all basically new or very, very much refurbished to the point where like it's maximum efficiency time and we're just turning the gears over. And there's a lot of new factories out there that have kind of come about in the last 10 years as a result of vinyl getting more popular. And most of them are still kind of working out the kinks and trying to figure out how to be profitable and how to run a business successfully. And we're like way ahead of that and just trying to keep a customer base happy and growing and keep the product fresh and come up with new ideas. And a lot of the things that we don't have to deal with, all these other people have to deal with on a daily basis. But we have 60 years worth of a knowledge base there making this product. So we're essentially ahead of the curve. And, you know, we're very proud of that relationship with them. And, you know, there's other people who make records there, but they're non-exclusive. And we're very much seen by them as their partner in the U.S. and even in Europe. We work closely with them to service, especially customers who need a little bit more of a hands-on approach to getting records made, and people looking to make smaller quantities, independent labels, and things like that. And we really provide a customer service and project management role that they honestly can't themselves at the level that we do it, and the level of being successful that we do it. So, we're really proud, and our customers are really happy with the service and the level of quality that we're giving them. And, it's just off to the races time now.
I forgot to mention this, folks. They're not like bad pirates, illegal downloader pirates or anything like that. This is legit. Just a name, Pirates Press Records. Okay, that's it. Two total different concepts.
Definitely.
Is there a vinyl pressing from Pirates Press that's blew you away, or maybe just set the bar on how vinyls are made now with special pressings, colors, even things implemented in the record itself on how crazy it is today? Has anything...
Last year we made the first hologram record, which they made them back in the 80s using a slightly different technology, but now holograms have advanced quite a bit. So we're actually able to make a record that has a hologram on the playable surface of the record. So we did it for the Ratchets last year on a 7-inch called Gotta Be Cool, and people just lost their minds. And we've got a lot of companies who are currently developing ideas to put that into play in the next couple of months here. But it's a really, really fun one. It just adds another dimension. Again, it gives the people a reason to buy that record and collect it. And even if it doesn't get put on the wall, but they play the digital, that's still a win for everybody involved, because it's really difficult to get somebody to put something up on a wall these days. There's a lot of stuff being put out there, so we need to set the trend. With colored vinyl, we're the kings of it. We make more different styles of colored vinyl than anybody out there, and some of the stuff we make has never been made before, and some of the stuff we do all the time, and we do it better than anybody. And it's one of my favorite things. Looking at our Record of the Week blog every week, there's just tons of amazing photos, and seeing the way people tie in the colors that they choose for the records with the artwork for the jackets and stuff, that's just such a cool part of what we do. And we actually do lend a lot of our experience to those decisions sometimes, telling people, you might want to use these colors instead of those colors, because they'll react differently doing, a blended mix or something like that. So we try and steer people towards making sure that product quality is going to be top notch, and that those photos that people take and spread online are going to be worthy of likes. That all matters when it all comes down, even though you can trivialize all the social media side of it. These days, in terms of selling records, social media and the internet are massive.
Oh, yeah. I agree. There have been some vinyls that I've saw, man, that just sent chills up me. And I don't mean that. I'm just saying it because you're on here. I mean, I'm dead serious. There have been some vinyls that just blew me the fuck away. And I'm going, how in the hell do they make clouds in this vinyl clear look? And I'm going, how did they do this shit, man? It's just amazing.
Sounds like a record we made.
It's too beautiful to even take out. It's like, no, here, take it. Take the baby. Take the baby.
Right.
Speaking of that, has there been a request from a band that's been insanely to do for a vinyl, possibly?
We get lots of requests that we have to say no to. I guess the most common is doing things like putting things in records. So we've got people who want to put cow's blood in records, or hair, or safety pins and razor blades, or, somebody's ashes, stuff like that,
Oh, God.
Ultimately, we could fool around and try and pull that stuff off, but it really doesn't work within the size and scale of the operation that we've got going on right now. Some of the smaller factories that are more 1 or 2 presses who have the time to kind of play around with stuff will have more success with those kind of things. But, we can knock out, 10,000 cloud records, as you call them, pretty easily. We know what we're doing, and for our pretty extensive product line, we don't really have a very different turnaround time, so to speak. Everything's made really quickly compared to a lot of other factories out there because of the efficiency that we've been able to achieve in our systems and stuff.
Man, and I hate to say this, I don't mean to be morbid, or I hope people don't think that I'm making fun or anybody like that when they pass away. But I mean, I know for a fact a lot of people would say, "Yeah, put my ashes in this album," and you guys would make a killing off of it. Oh, I didn't mean to say it like that.
Yeah, I did it for a friend of ours named Bruce Roarth, who was a contributor at Maximum Rock and Roll for a long time.
Yeah.
We put out a record for Booze and Glory and Harrington Saints that it was hammer shaped, so it was like a shaped record with 2 crossed hammers. And he was like a construction dude for a long time. And we brought his ashes out to the Czech Republic and pressed him into 100 copies of that record. So it was a pretty special thing, but it was also pretty creepy and pretty gross. And we had to like filter out the larger bits and bones and stuff, which we, put on the floor in a mosh pit in Germany 2 days later. But that's a different story.
Live long and prosper, brother.
Yeah.
So
no rules.
So 2005 came around and you started the Pirates Press Records. Coming from vinyl record making to now record company, realistically, how many bands did you think would come aboard? And has it met your expectations so far as a record label?
Oh, man, the record label was just kind of a hobby. We got the itch, so to speak, after pressing so many records for other people. We're like, we got to do a couple for ourselves. And there were some bands that were comprised somewhat of pirates, people who worked here and friends of ours. And so we kind of started with that and taking some friends' bands and putting some stuff out to kind of show off what we could do, not really with the intention of keeping up with like a regular release schedule or anything. And it took us a long time to release the first, I think it took 4 years to release the first 20 records, and now we're up to 255 or something, so we've really stepped on the gas, and that's a result of us being more successful with the manufacturing company, so we have more resources financially to be able to invest in that stuff, and also just bands today seeing what we're doing as an example of what they would like, and like a lot of it's really natural, a lot of it's like we were talking about earlier, it's a scene, and friends of ours, and we're just kind of helping them, acting like a partner rather than other labels who would take more top-down approach working with bands. We try and partner with them and kind of offer services that match what they need. And those can vary a lot of the time depending on where a band is at, how much they tour, and what their potential is and stuff like that. And so some of the stuff we do is just about putting out a couple of records and getting them out there into stores, and then other stuff is much more complex in helping bands develop like a business plan and a marketing plan and executing it on multiple dimensions and things like that. So we try and figure out what's worth our time and focus our time on the things that will help people the most and have the most potential. And as a result, it's kind of created this awesome community of tons and tons of bands that, we work with to get their music out there to people, and it's all under one roof and under one flag, so to speak. And, it's been really fun to see all the bands connecting with each other too. For me, that's like kind of the more fun part of it, is to see bands connecting on their own to do tours and like play shows and stuff like that. It makes it feel like a community, which is the intention really, because it wasn't set up to be a money-making venture. I wouldn't tell anybody to start a record label to make money. But it is something that people have passion for, and whether they're able to make a little money on it or not, the passion can't be replaced by other things. So people will always be in a position of wanting to put out records. And that's always been the safety net of the manufacturing company too. It's like, we're not basing the business on selling records one by one to keep the lights on. We're selling them 500 at a time or 1,000 at a time. And in my mind, knowing the people who put out records, there will always be a group of people with jobs and other sources of revenue, bands, things like that, who are so passionate they will always continue to put out their music on vinyl. And so there'll always be a need for Pirates Press.
Are you guys working on anything new for the company, either Pirates Press or Pirates Press Records?
Yeah, the two big projects we've got on the horizon right now is for the manufacturing company. We're partnering with Bandcamp to help them open up doors to a lot of bands to get their own records made without a label involved necessarily. So more of a crowdfunding approach. And it's good. The testing of it has been successful. We're really excited for it to kind of go live to the public this fall and to see what kind of numbers we can turn over next year in terms of more independent music hitting the market and stuff getting purchased. And the way they're doing it is really smart in terms of making sure that what's getting made is being sold, and it's not just ending up in a warehouse somewhere, which is an alternate part of why vinyl's tack has changed a little bit in the last couple of years, with major labels getting to a point where they've basically put everything in terms of back catalog into production. And now they're at a point where they're only repressing the stuff that's been selling, and there's warehouses filled with records. So, you know, it's a different vinyl market right now than it was even 2 or 3 years ago. But for us, like, what we focus on is independent music, because new music is the future of vinyl and the stability of vinyl. So this partnership with Bandcamp is really important to us, and we're really excited about it. And for the label, we've got the Rock the Ship party coming up, which, even though it's the anniversary party for the manufacturing company, the label is who's providing the entertainment, so to speak. So we've got like 25 or more bands, 8 shows. We've got the main event happening on the deck of an aircraft carrier here in the Bay Area. It's pretty ridiculous. We've got Cox Bar and the Subhumans and Street Dogs, the Old Firm Casuals and Charger and Off With Their Heads and Monster Squad and Darkbuster and Barstool Preachers and all kinds of other amazing bands playing the event. We've got some cool secret surprises that are going to happen at the after parties and the club shows and stuff like that. So we're really excited. And like we have in the past, we're not taking the approach the way a lot of people would running a festival to try and like make as much money as possible. We're trying to make it as big of a party as possible. So, you know, we're making sure that everybody walks into all of the events and just feels like it's their party, you know, that everybody's part of this community that we've created, because that's kind of the ethos around here, you know. It's like we want people to feel like it's a community, and like what we're creating is something within kind of an open door policy. And, you know, even if we're not going to put your record out on our record label, we'll help you manufacture it. We'll give you advice on, you know, designing it or like pushing it on people, whatever you need. We're happy to help. And that's kind of what we go with. And that's why people are super stoked on being a part of what we're doing. And so, yeah, October 17th through 20th, Rock the Ship in the Bay Area. If you want to go to a punk rock show on the deck of an aircraft carrier, it's going to be first of its kind, for sure.
That's awesome. And plus, you got a couple from Fat there. You know, CJ Ramon's going to be there, which I totally love CJ's music still.
Rumor has it he might even be playing an all Ramones set that night. We shall see.
Little teaser. And there's
a lot of people in town that night. So, like, one of the things CJ loves to do is get friends up on stage to do songs too. So, you know, we've got 30 bands coming through that weekend. It should be a fun one that night for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. And there's a band that to me is a sleeper, and I mean it in a good way, because this band is so good. Their music is so good. Charger. That band.
Oh man. And you haven't even seen them live yet, I bet.
No, I have not, and I hope I get to soon. Oh man. Yeah,
when the plan is for them to step on the gas a little bit more next year, but when people start seeing them live, when more people start seeing them live, it's going to be all people are going to talk about for a while. It's really, really impressive. That style of music is not generally something that is something I seek out, but having been exposed to that, it blew me away.
Oh, yeah.
It simply blew me away.
Yeah, you have to take note of it, man. There's no way of turning it off. I mean, I listened to it for a month straight, honestly.
Amazing.
And I
they're going to be announcing some shows soon, and then, like I said, the hope next year is to announce a lot more so that more people across the country and elsewhere can check them out.
What do you hope everyone takes away from the vinyls, CDs, and merchandise in general that they get from you guys, from your company, man? What do you hope that they get when they're holding that vinyl or merchandise in their hand?
Something they want to show somebody else.
Yeah.
We try and aim to have the best product out there, you know, and keep people happy, get them the best deals so that they can make the most money and come back and make that next record. And just ultimately, we're trying to be a vehicle to help other people be successful with their ventures, whether it's being a band or being a label or a company or whatever. So for us, It's just about pride. And if they take pride in the product that we're making for them and that experience that we gave them, it's going to result in them doing well and us getting more business down the line. And so, yeah, that's the takeaway. Be proud of what you got. And, for people out there who aren't involved in the making of music or putting out records and things like that, support bands, buy records, buy merch.
Yes.
If you can buy it from the band, buy it from the band. If you buy it from the label, buy it from the label. The more middlemen you can cut out of that picture, the more money the band is getting, the more likely that band's going to come play in your town.
I'm going to ask this question. I hope this kind of makes sense, but what does Pirates Press and Pirates Press Records bring to the table for music that's not out there as of right now, if anything, Skippy? What are you guys adding out there that some of these labels and companies are not doing?
I think that the hands-on approach that we give and the flexibility that we give to our customers, like I was speaking about earlier with regards to some people having experience and some people not having experience, and us being able to bridge that gap, that's really what makes us unique. And that's what allows us to help people who are just putting their first record out ever and don't have a clue what they're doing, or want to make 12 versions of some record to be sold in 12 different distros across the world. Like, we can handle either of those things seamlessly. And that's really what sets us apart. And like, the big companies all love us, but it's the independent musicians and the artists and labels that are really working hard to make a go of it, who really appreciate the way we can make things easy for people and make sure that their product is top quality at the same time.
Is there a band on the bucket list that you would like to work with for Pirates Press and Pirates Press Records, man? Who would you like to possibly, or do you have that one band that's already there?
Well, in terms of the label, like the Holy Trilogy would be getting the Ramones and the Clash to do something on the label with Cox Bar. But, we'll take the Cox Bar and Rancid and CJ and all the other stuff. At this point, I'm just proud of what we've been able to put together. Having just put out the new Subhumans record, that adds a whole other dimension to the label as well. It's a little bit of a different scene within punk, but at the same time, equally important, and has just as important of a legacy. And there's so many people that are equally passionate about that band as bands like Spar and Rancid, that it's just, each one of these new bands as we work with them is like, whether we call it bucket list or checking stuff off the list, whatever, it's just adding them to the community that we're talking about earlier is what's important for us. So bringing more people into the fold, and we did a record for the Armstrongs, which was a benefit for Gilman, which got like Tim Armstrong and Billy Joe Armstrong involved, which was super cool. That camp, both of those camps, the Rancid camp and the Green Day camp, we'd love to do more work with them. But, at the end of the day, we're just as happy and satisfied working with small bands and helping them achieve their goals too. Like, that's equally important for us, as much as it'd be cool to say that we put out a Green Day record or something. Like,
yeah,
I love the fact that I can name 30 people by name who I've been able to allow them to go to Europe on a tour and play their music in front of like people from Germany and Belgium and the Czech Republic, and they would never have that opportunity otherwise. And so for me, that's really important and kind of something we always try to keep in focus for the label.
Do you have a go-to album or song that just lets you escape when you were younger, or maybe even today still? Do you still have it, possibly?
Ooh, I don't know. I don't think I could narrow it down to one song.
Yeah, I understand. I can completely understand that, for sure.
No, that's a tough one. I mean, I guess for right now, my answer would be One by One by Cox Bar, which is the first song on their new record, only because it really sums up a lot of the stuff we've been talking about and creating like that community. And, those words coming out of a band that means so much to all of us is huge,
Now, with Rock the Ship, you guys are going to be doing an auction, and the proceeds are going to the East Bay Public Schools for art and music. Let's talk about that a little bit, man.
Yeah, man. We've got all kinds of crazy stuff that we're going to be auctioning off. We've got a signed Fender bass from Matt Freeman. We've got a bunch of subscriptions to magazines that we're going to auction off as a whole. So somebody could basically win a year-long subscription to like every music magazine out there, or like
nice.
all the good ones anyway. And then we've got like some local packages for people here that, want to get tattooed or get like purchase things in stores and go to restaurants and that kind of stuff, like gift certificates. We got a bunch of art that people are donating. We've even got some like signed skateboards and stuff that we've made, like limited edition stuff. And then we've got about 10 tattooers that have drawn up limited designs for the festival that are just pirate inspired. And we're making a limited run of shirts for each of them that will be selling at the festival for charity as well. So all the money is going to go to the East Bay Public Schools art and music programs, which, as everybody knows, Common Story in America are underfunded.
Yeah, very much so. And someone's even taken it out of their school system, which I think is a shame, very shame.
Yeah, it's certainly not going to help any music scene out there to not have kids growing up having that be a part of their education. I know for me, even though I never pursued it, playing instruments in elementary school and middle school did make me a better person and a more diverse person, and made me more passionate about music. And all of those things resulted in me now employing people.
Yeah.
So there's a positive benefit to all of these things, one way or another.
What are you guys specifically looking in a band to get on for Pirates Press or Pirates Press Records? Is there anything specifically, or what can a band do to possibly get help with you guys?
The bands that we really go to bat for the most and invest in the most are the bands making the biggest sacrifices. The bands getting in a van to travel, 6 to 8 months of the year for little to no money with little to no sleep to just play their music out for people. Like, to make sure that those people have records on a merch table and have shirts behind the merch table to get them from point A to point B and get them a hotel room from here and there. Like, that's a really important factor for us in terms of deciding who we work with, because there's a lot of bands out there. It's a lot easier to record a record now than it was 10 or 20 years ago. So there's a lot of people hitting us up asking for help in terms of the label. And, most people we can't help. And those we decide based on the music itself and the unit itself in terms of how professional the band is, how much we believe that they're going to stay together, that they're going to continue to improve, and then, whether or not they're making that sacrifice. If it all comes down to it and we have to choose between two bands, the band that's out there flying the label flag every day in different cities at different venues is going to win over the band who's got normal jobs and can only play local shows here and there. So those are really the things that we focus on. But like I said earlier, we don't just say no to people when they ask. We say, well, we can't help from the label, but we can help with this, and we can make you records and merch and help you spend your money wisely and make sure that you have, a business going, you have a merch table that can support you, like that kind of thing. So we try and work with people to whatever degree that we can,
Folks, Rock the Ship, October 17th through the 20th. You want to get out and check that out. Plus, they're going to do an auction that is going, all proceeds that will go to the East Bay Public Schools for art and music. Skippy, how can folks stay in touch with you, find out what all's going on with Pirates Press and Pirates Press Records? How can you do that, good sir?
PiratesPress.com and PiratesPressRecords.com.
Before I let you go, would you care to do a promo for the show?
Sure. Hey, this is Skippy from Pirates Press and Pirates Press Records. You're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Everybody stick around. We got some great stuff coming up, and you only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour and BODS Mayhem Radio Network. Please get out, check out our Facebook page. It has our podcast link, YouTube link, and hopefully soon our Twitch link. Also, it's very important you check out our YouTube page. Everything and anything that we do is going up on our YouTube page, and please subscribe and like us to keep up with everything, and plus our podcast also. Also, get out and check out Pirates Press and Pirates Press Records. Skippy and the guys, they have done tremendously an awesome job. And girls. Yeah. Sorry, ladies. Sorry. They have all done a great job with the vinyl and things that they're doing. Plus, Rock the Ship, October 17th through the 20th, Bay Area. Skippy, thank you so much, man, and keep up the good work.
Thanks for having me, man.
to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.